the favorite food of the UK and pulling the wool over the customer's eyes. The misrepresentation of curry in the UK is beyond imagination, perpetuated by curry houses, supermarkets, and even the BBC. For decades, they promoted an inaccurate narrative, failing to consider the consequences of this deception. However, in the age of information, where knowledge is just a click away, consumers have become more enlightened. They began questioning the authenticity of what was presented to them as Indian curry, leading to what is now recognized as the curry crisis. The BBC's role in the curry crisis. Since the 1980s, the BBC, a publicly funded broadcasting service supported by license fees, has played a pivotal role in popularizing Indian curry. Yet it did so while fully aware that this representation was historically inaccurate. Instead of educating the nation about the true origins of curry, it streamlined a false narrative that erased the multi-millennial legacy of Tamil curry. The consequence? When customers eventually realized they were being misled, they sought alternatives, and the UK curry industry began to struggle. However, instead of acknowledging the real issue, a lack of authenticity, the problem was misdiagnosed as a visa shortage of skilled chefs. In response, the UK government acted swiftly, opening a curry college to train local chefs. The initiative failed spectacularly. Not only was there no demand, but the failure also exposed the fact that visa restrictions were never the root cause of the industry's struggles. Despite its influence and vast resources, the BBC has yet to take responsibility for its role in this misrepresentation. It has the means to investigate the history of curry in depth and educate the British public on the true origins of their favourite dish. As a publicly funded institution, it has an obligation to correct the misleading narrative it has helped shape. I have personally sent multiple messages to BBC's top management, urging them to address this issue, yet I am still waiting for a response. The core of the curry crisis: authenticity. At its heart, the curry crisis stems from a crisis of authenticity. What was once simply labelled Indian curry has now splintered into various national variations: Sri Lankan curry, Pakistani curry, Bangladeshi curry, Thai green and red curries, Japanese curry, and even Vietnamese curry, to name a few. More recently, British curry has been added to the mix, further confusing consumers and even the government. With everyone claiming their version to be the authentic curry, the real story has been lost. But the truth is simple. The word curry itself originates from Tamil, one of the world's oldest surviving languages. I am in communication with government departments and members of parliament who were surprised to learn that curry is a Tamil word, along with many other Tamil origin words that entered English before the British even set sail for the Indian subcontinent. Colonial trade, Tamil curry, and the forgotten history. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to establish a trading post in the Curry Mandalam, curry zone or region, a thriving coastal hub of Tamil spice, cotton and pearl trade. When the Dutch arrived, they struggled to pronounce Curry Mandalam and called it Coromandel Coast, a name that still exists today. One by one, the Danish, French and British arrived and set up their trading posts along this very coast. However, every single European power that entered Coromandel did so only after the 17th century, except for the Portuguese, who arrived in the early 16th century. While setting up their colonial footholds, the Portuguese also occupied the small Tamil islets off the northern coast of Ceylon, modern-day Sri Lanka, to control the thriving pearl fishing industry. This period saw the Tamil language words enter European languages via Portuguese traders, explaining why the word curry was transmitted to English through Portuguese. Why is this important? Because it explains how curry became a British staple. Columbus failed in his attempt to reach the Tamil spice lands of the Indian subcontinent, but Vasco da Gama succeeded. His return to Europe with black pepper and other Tamil spices fueled a European trading frenzy. Through Portuguese trade networks, Tamil words including curry began spreading across Europe, eventually reaching English. Later, when the British East India Company, EIC, arrived in the 17th century, it established a presence in Coromandel before expanding across India. The EIC's first stronghold was in Tamil lands, and as it grew into an empire, curry followed the British wherever they went. The irony is that some British authors, centuries later, wrongly claimed that the British introduced curry to India, a country they claimed to have founded. While their claim was technically correct in the sense that British India was a colonial construct, the truth is that, unlike the English language, curry did not originate from Britain. It came from Coromandel, the very place from which they began their empire-building journey. The complexity of colonialism and curry. Tamil homelands, as they exist today, were both annexed by the British, one into India and the other into Sri Lanka. British colonialism was not a single entity. It had two distinct systems. One, the British East India Company, EIC, a commercial enterprise that expanded British territories through trade and warfare. Two, the British Crown, which later took direct control, leading to the formal establishment of British India in 1858. Just as British colonial rule was complex, the history of curry is equally intricate. Curry's roots stretch back at least 5,000 years, parallel to the Indus Valley civilization. The Tamil Nadu state government recently unearthed Iron Age tools dating back 5,000 years, reinforcing the ancient legacy of Tamil civilization. However, solid evidence places Tamil curry and spice use at least 3,200 years into the past. For millennia, the Tamil people have had two traditional homelands, Tamil Nadu in South India, the Tamil kingdoms of Ceylon, Sri Lanka today. Both were eventually ruled by the British, but the Tamil regions in Sri Lanka experienced 450 years of colonialism, first under the Portuguese, then the Dutch, and finally the British. What the BBC didn't tell the nation. The BBC's misrepresentation of curry as Indian has effectively erased centuries of Tamil culinary history, reducing it to just the 200 years of British rule and the creation of modern India. By doing so, the BBC conveniently ignored several key facts. The existence of British Ceylon. The BBC only discusses British India, failing to acknowledge that Sri Lanka, Ceylon, was a separate British colony. The other European colonial powers, the Portuguese, Dutch, Danish and French, all played roles in the Coromandel spice trade before British rule. Tamil culinary influence. Curry didn't start in Bengal or Delhi. It began in the Tamil lands, which were first accessed by Europeans for their spices. In Tamil, there is an old proverb, hiding a pumpkin in a plate of rice, meaning covering up an obvious truth. The BBC has done precisely this, and for decades, the UK curry industry profited from the misrepresentation. But now, as customers demand authenticity, the industry can no longer hide behind outdated narratives. The path forward, what needs to happen? The UK government must recognise that the curry crisis is about authenticity, not just a lack of chefs. The BBC must correct its misrepresentation and use its resources to educate the public about the true origins of their favourite dish. Supermarkets must diversify their curry offerings. Curry is not just a chicken-based dish. It has rich vegan, vegetarian, plant-based, including millet, and non-vegetarian varieties. Given that the UN declared 2023 as the International Year of Millet, it's time for supermarkets to adapt. Final thought. Demand authenticity. The UK's love for curry is undeniable. But it's time for authenticity to take centre stage. Consumers deserve to know the truth. Curry deserves its rightful place in history. The BBC must acknowledge its role in this misrepresentation. With the Greater London Authority officially recognising January as Tamil Heritage Month and its peak function, Thai Pongal being celebrated at 10 Downing Street, along with the first Tamil MP in the British Parliament, British Tamils will continue to push for their curry to be recognised as part of their vibrant, living heritage, not as an orphaned dish detached from its true roots. Moreover, the BBC should recognise its responsibility to protect the nation's favourite food, an industry it helped build into a £5 billion powerhouse, supporting 100,000 workers and contributing significantly to government tax revenue. By correcting its misrepresentation, the BBC can play a vital role in preserving both the legacy and the future of the UK curry industry. It's time to upgrade to Tamil curry, the true post-Chile era curry.